please, ladies and gentlemen.
And can't ask much more than I can.
That I really like.
Step right up, all you freaks, geeks, and cinemaniacs. From the heart of Hollyweird, California, at the epicenter of all things eerie and awesome, it's time for Charles Band's Full Moon Freak Show.
New York-born actor William Forsythe began his career, like so many young performers in the 1970s and 80s, in network television, appearing in hit shows like Chips, Hill Street Blues, and the William Shatner cop program, T.J. Hooker. But after appearing in the great Sergio Leone's sprawling gangster epic, Once Upon a Time in America, he became an in-demand player, usually portraying the heavy, often with a darkly comedic edge. You know William from his work with the Cohen Brothers, Nicolas Cage comedy Raising Arizona, his role as Flat Top in Warren Beatty's Dick Tracy, his appearances in Rob Zombie shockers like Halloween and Devil's Rejects, his role as the brutal butcher Manny Horowitz in HBO's Boardwalk Empire, and many, many more. He's truly one of the great performers, and we are honored to have him here on The Freak Show. Did I get anything wrong?
Dave, you left a lot out, but it's
okay.
okay.
Dude, it's an intro.
No,
I know. Well, the career is amazing. So, you know, we're going to jump to Italy, okay? Because Once Upon a Time in America, Sergio Leone, what an amazing experience. I grew up in Italy. My dad made movies there. I was on those sets as a little kid and met, I'm sure, half the people you work with. But tell us just a moment about working with Leone.
Well, first of all, it was the greatest gift that I could ever be given. And I had an agent at the time, and I just get this phone call out of nowhere. You got to get over to the Chateau Marmont Hotel. They're doing this gangster thing. He has no other information for me.
It's great.
So I walk over, I walk in, I meet Joy Todd. She looks at me and she goes, "Yeah, you'd be perfect. Yeah. Okay, go get a monologue, come back." I wrote a monologue.
Really?
I come back, and I do this monologue, about a 2-minute monologue, and I'm going, yeah. I just knew something good had happened.
Right.
But, back then, there was no, you get shoved out the door.
And this is all in-person stuff.
Yeah.
Today you phone it in. This is
well,
like
I won't do that. I'm kind of that.
Just saying.
I'm that weird guy that looks at that as like some bad mojo or something. But yeah, so I did the monologue, and I put this one choice in where based on my grandfather, and Anthony Castellano was his name, and he was Tough Tony.
Castellano, that's a great name.
And he was Tough Tony, and he had this one thing when he got mad. Only when he got mad, like this Popeye thing would happen, and I put it in as a choice, and I did the monologue. I left. I had a phone call already, a voicemail, well, not a pager voicemail,
whatever it was.
And and it was like, come back immediately. And I walk in, and there was Sergio. He's sitting there in this robe, and he looked like a Greek God or something. He was just, he's huge and just sitting there, and he's just, and everything with Sergio was eyes.
Right.
He's looking. He's already got me in the box. And,
Right.
It was pretty amazing, and he just proceeds to tell me that when I've been working on this movie for 10 years,
right,
and when I thought of this character, he said, I always saw your face. And I'm like, fuck yeah, this is going to be good.
Now, was he speaking, he speaks a broken English.
He
so,
could
yeah,
speak English one-on-one,
right.
But when he worked on the set, he definitely had an instant interpreter. His name was Brian, and he was fabulous.
Wow.
And, great experience, because, Sergio was great. He was, the greatest eye I've ever worked with, but he was tough, too. He was quite a character,
So I grew up in Italy, and my dad made movies. He made epics with Steve Reeves. He made spaghetti westerns.
I watched every one of those.
All of those movies. A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die. He would bring over actors like Robert Ryan and Joseph Cotten. So I was the luckiest kid in the world growing up in that environment. But my best story as it relates to Sergio Leone is we're in Spain, and my dad's making a movie. I think it was A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die, and we're sharing the hotel with this. Ours was the more expensive movie, and we're sharing the hotel with this Italian filmmaker guy, new guy, and he's making a movie called A Fistful of Dollars with this young American actor who was just in a TV show called Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood. So we're sharing this environment, and I'm sure it's maybe the same today, but as we talked about earlier, back then the crews were bigger, heavy lifting, lights, cameras, weight. This is nothing like today. So there were a lot of people that had flown in from Italy, Italian, and our crew. And I just remember as a kid, because I don't know how old I was a kid, maybe 10, 11, that I kind of knew I was on the more important set. My dad's movie with Robert Ryan and Jimmy Mitchum. I forget who the other actors were. And this other guy, this Italian dude, Sergio Leone,
who had done
nothing,
had been an AD for 50 movies.
They were making a little movie
with
this Clint Eastwood guy, and of course dissolved. I mean, my dad's movie did well; it was a well-known movie at the time, and of course this launched everyone's career from Clint to Sergio. But I remember talking to Sergio, and I speak Italian, and he was just such a character. He was just so much energy, and he's looking at me like that, but. That's all I remember. And then Clinton and my dad became very friendly, and I kind of kept in touch with him for years. And even when he became the mayor of Carmel, I was there. So, yeah, those were amazing days.
Yeah.
So what a thrill. Now, you shot it in Italy.
Yes,
a movie called Once Upon a Time in America.
Yeah, we filmed at Cinecittà,
right,
which in itself was the most amazing experience. I'm walking around. I got to meet, I'm walking around one day, and I'm like, I just walk into a set, another movie set, and there's Ava Gardner, and I look, and there's Anthony Quinn,
right,
and I'm just, I'm in heaven.
That is so cool.
And I don't say a word. I just walk around talking, letting everyone else do the talking, and the experience there was just outstanding. I mean, for me, I had a big theater background. I had done close to 40 plays in New York, and and that was my whole training, and what I had done so far in Hollywood. Funny, Sergio, my best tape at the time was the episode of Chips, which is good.
Right.
I had a mohawk haircut, and I played leader of a punk rock band, and Sergio says, "You have some tape for me, William?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I go, "Here." And I handed him that with commercials, so I know Sergio Leone watched.
That is hilarious.
Watched the episode of Chips with commercials.
Wow.
So
what was sort of the first TV gig? I mean, when you finally, after all that training, you got the first gig, which was probably paying reasonable money at the time. I mean,
Well, my first job ever in movies was my first ever close-up. Was The Gift from God. I worked with Dennis Hopper.
No way.
My very first scene was with Dennis.
Wow.
And I can tell you, the movie was called King of the Mountain, which is lost now. We don't know where it is or whatever. But I got to work with Dennis, and Dennis was pretty wild at that particular stage of his life.
I'm sure.
And so he was drinking like half a bottle for each take. Now we did his coverage first, and brilliant, but wild. Like, by the time we were ready for my coverage, he was like 3 sheets and brilliant and absolutely brilliant.
Wow.
So he's supposed to come up to me, and oddly enough, we were filming right by the Griffith Observatory.
Okay.
And so and it's 25 years after, Rebel.
Right.
And so he comes to me, and he's supposed to be, what about you, big man? You want to race? That's his, I'm like, no, man, I don't want to race today, He comes over to me, and it was the greatest gift I could ever be given about movie making. He looks at me and he goes, instead of saying the line, he looks at me and he goes, the Diener, man, the fucking Diener. And he starts crying like this, tears weeping out of his eyes.
On your take?
Yeah.
He gave that to you?
He goes, the Diener, man. He goes, they paid him $50,000, man. They broke his fucking heart. And the tears, and I'm just looking at him like this.
God.
And I just go, no, man, not tonight,
That's right.
But it was just the power of that moment, and the power of what off camera could mean, and the power of what great actors. And I mean, I showed up on the set. I had my makeup kit. I was a theater guy.
What a gift!
Yeah.
Wow.
And I had actually done. I had a lot of crazy jobs leading up to the movies when I got to LA.
I'm sure.
So I was working at the Troubadour.
Really?
And and after hours, we had a party one night, and I look up, and Dennis just takes the stage. This is 3 months before I worked with him.
Just random.
He just jumps up and he goes, hey, man, and he starts doing some improv, and he looks out and he goes, anybody out there from Arcadia, man? And I'm going, fuck this, I'm going for it. And I go, I am, dude. And he and I got on the stage.
This is before.
We spent an hour on the stage, like doing this whole improv, and
oh my God.
it was, and then as a just a crazy thing, I suddenly get cast in the movie, and my first
show
is with Dennis.
He remembered the improv?
No, well, he didn't remember me after that too. When I saw him, he goes,
he didn't remember.
He goes, forgive me, man. He goes, like, I don't remember a lot about those days.
Wow.
But I loved him with all my heart. I mean, he was a guy I loved to just go up and give a hug to, because he's such an artist.
Definitely, and every time he was on screen, I don't care what movie I saw him in, he was just like, he just kind of radiated through.
Oh, he's great. Even the John Wayne movies, like where he's like this nervous little guy, or any character, he always brought it, and he was so humble and beautiful.
And that was the first gig.
That was my first movie.
First movie.
Yeah.
But what about your first job on TV? Something like you went from theater and you got your first.
The first great opportunity was when they offered me. They offered me the part in Chips. I went into. I met Kathy Henderson. God rest her as well, and I did something crazy. I walked in the door and I was all, I'm all, let's call it methody. And
really?
I go deep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I come in the door and I look, and I'm all in character, and she's got a desk there, and I just. Crazy choice. I just cleared her desk.
Oh, really?
Through everything. And she just looks at me, and I didn't, and I just went for it. And when it was over with, she just looks at me and she just goes, sit down. She goes, you have a lot of energy. You're very good. She goes, I'm giving you this part.
Wow.
Just like that. And
that was a casting director.
Yeah.
For people who don't know. Right?
Yeah. And it was, so I got to do, now I understand. I had been at the Troubadour. And one of my jobs,
working, not performing.
And I'm doorman sometimes, bartender sometimes.
I was there a lot during that period. Maybe I don't know.
Oh God, yeah, I was all over the place.
Right.
But during that time, I had there was a night they had. It was Sunday night. It was punk rock night, and they would have punk bands, and they'd open up that floor in the middle, and it became the slam pit, and so my job on punk rock night was to get in the middle of the pit and slam dance with the punks. I loved it. It was great exercise.
Really?
And my job was to just be in the pit, and a lot of them did it. They would grab innocent girls, and they
How innocent?
Well, girls just walking by, they'd find some little, missy something and pull her in the middle, and these guys start pounding on her. So my job was to slam over, free her.
Okay.
And then if they did it again, my job was to slam over or give the other door guy the look, and then boom.
So I got to ask, these are all amazing stories. Now, during that period, I don't know if you're married or not. I don't really pay attention to that, but. Did you hook up with some awesome women during that period, or were you?
Well, LA was a wonderful place for ladies. Let's put it that way.
Let's hear one of those stories. Come on.
Oh, come on.
Every dude wants
I don't
to hear
kiss
that.
and tell. Come on.
Well, you don't have to tell a name.
Well,
you just make.
There was so many funny. All right.
Give me a one or two or three.
Well, I enjoyed myself greatly during those golden days.
Good.
But as an example of what L.A. opened the door to me. Somebody said, "Come on, we're going to a party over at the Oakwood, over on Barham, the old Oakwood." I go, "Okay," and I walk in. We walk to the pool, and the pool's got the steam rising, and I look, and there's like 40, 50 magnificent, beautiful women wearing bikinis swimming in the pool.
Mainly women, no guys.
Oh, I didn't notice them. I looked at my buddy. I took my wallet, I took my stuff, and I hid it in the bushes. And I swear to you, I dove into the swimming pool, and I swam up to this beautiful woman, a little older than me. And the next thing I know, I left the Oakwood 3 weeks later. It was like that to me represented how LA
that's
was.
a movie. Okay, no, I want to hear more.
Once I dreamed.
Wait. But you hid your money in the bushes so you get wet or so you would get stolen?
So I could jump. Yeah,
jump
both.
In the pool, both. That's what I figured. All right. So wait, well, hold on, because that story is already amazing. For real, 3 weeks.
I left.
It was her room.
Oh, not just with her. I ended up, having whatever time I had with her, and then, but I'd suddenly drift on. I mean, it was endless.
I've never had that. I mean, I've been in Hollywood. We're probably the same age. I've never had that experience.
See, the Beach Boys fucked us all up. For guys like me, we were like, we had to go.
Okay, no, wait a minute. So you hook up with this chick, and you're making out, doing whatever you're doing, and it was her room.
Yeah, I was in her place.
So she, whatever happened, I assume some kind of banging. I don't know what you call it exactly.
I refuse to answer that question.
We weren't there for 3 weeks playing like checkers, okay? So at the end of the day, you hook
occasionally
up
a game of chess, but there was no checking.
But you hook up with this chick, and somehow you also had the time. Did you go to work, or you just?
I stayed there for 3 weeks. I could
stay there in party mode.
Well, I learned early on in the theater days, and that. If you had a girlfriend, you had a place to stay.
Are you listening? This is awesome.
Well, I had, in the theater days, I left home the day after I graduated high school, which I graduated early in January.
Okay.
And the most unknown fact about me is I trained actually as a legitimate singer, bel canto,
oh, wow.
Opera and all that. And so the very first day after I graduated, I went into town. I got my first. I did an operetta called The Merry Widow,
wow.
and it was just so.
This is New York.
Yeah,
okay.
But I had no money. I had
right.
nothing. So either I had to commute back, or where, and I would sleep in theaters. I would make deals with them to clean up, and I'd sleep there. And then, if I met a girl that I liked, I had a place I could hang.
That was good.
And that was,
So, but back to the pool. That was a 3-week gig.
That was a similar deal. Yeah,
that was a good deal.
Well, it was
That's amazing.
It was about the romance, to be honest. I was always been a fool for romance. It wasn't just sexual. I mean, I enjoyed myself. But it was the Oakwood was so alive then. It's not like that now. I mean, everyone was. The doors were open. People lived, you walk by high, and so it was pretty.
What era? When was this? This is the 90s.
This was
the 80s.
No, this was 1977.
Oh wow! Okay.
1977.
Well, that was a different world. My God.
Yeah, it was really great. That particular place had an energy that I have to say it was pretty fabulous, and everyone was fun, and it was
and open.
It gave me fuel.
It gave you a lot of fuel, and you lost some fuel. But then 3 weeks, and then how does it end? See you later. It's been great.
Well,
baby.
I had to eventually swim out of that pool
right.
and go.
And you grab your dough in the bushes.
You go back and begin. It was just the ability to be able to do that. That's how romantic I remember Los Angeles as being.
Wow.
It had this quality that. Again, I tell you, it started with the Beach Boys. It was almost that, magical, calling you there.
For sure.
I always, my mom, I lost my mom this year, God rest her, but she was my first teacher.
She must have lived to a good age then, too.
She was 85.
Okay.
But she was young when I came about. But she was my first teacher, and she was a classic movie lover. She knew everything.
Wow.
And so my dad worked nights, and my mom and we'd watch every movie, every black and white movie. She knew every player, everyone. She taught me every person. So I learned from Mom all about movies and things like that. And so she was the first teacher, and a good one.
Right.
I think secretly she wanted to be in show business when she was a little girl, but of course, Brooklyn. And
well, she did it through you. I mean, you were that.
Oh God, and she was funny as hell too. She would get I always duck everything. I ducked premieres. I was bad.
Right.
I ducked things. I love the work.
Right.
I didn't so much love that whole
schmoozing
thing
and all that stuff. Yeah.
But yet my mom one day she goes to me. She goes, "Do you know how many people?" She goes, "would kill to be in the position you are, being invited to these things."
True.
She goes, "You're going to the next one," and I'm like, "All right, Mom."
Did you take her?
Oh, that was what she goes like this, "and you're taking me."
Oh, that's great. Good.
And
for
I was
her.
like, so she went. She loved. She had a great time schmoozing with people. She did funny things. Like when we moved once upon a time in America to Montreal.
Oh, right, I remember that.
My family came.
Oh, wow.
And they all came up, and she was such a character. She's so happy and watching.
So
everything.
sweet.
And I'm going, Mom, just take it easy. Robert, he's a great guy, but he's a little shy when it comes
Right.
to it. So just be aware and all. And she goes, okay. So we're getting ready to do a shot. We're in the car.
I feel it coming.
Yeah, the car where we're getting ready to shoot Burt Young
Right,
in the
okay.
scene and that whole sequence. And she's, 200 feet away watching with the crowd and everything. And I'm in the car with James Woods and Robert, and we're just talking and hanging out. And suddenly Woods goes, "Don't look now, there's your mom." And she's at the window.
That's
She had the
great.
Instamatic. She shoots, and I still have the photo. It's phenomenal. And Robert is like, you can see he's a little shy about it, but he was great. He treated my mom like gold.
That is such a great story.
Yeah.
So your dad was Italian.
No,
Italian.
no, Dad was a farm boy.
Oh.
Missouri farm boy.
And your mom's
Tennessee. Mom's Italian from Brooklyn. They met during the Korean War.
Right.
Dad got stationed there, in preparation for deployment.
My story is the flip side. My father, born in France, the son of a well-known artist who formed a school with Chagall. There's a whole story there that I won't get into, but he came over to America at age 16, dreaming of Hollywood. And began an interesting career. He was right arm to John Huston. He did movies like Red Badge of Courage and Asphalt Jungle. They together discovered Marilyn Monroe. And my dad's dream was to meet an American model or hot chick or actress. And in fact, he met my mom from a small town. Well, she was a model in Los Angeles, but she was born in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. So Paris, France, Okmulgee, Oklahoma. Where was your
Great
mom
combo.
born?
In Brooklyn.
But Italian.
Oh,
descent.
yeah, Mom's Italian.
And the father, farm boy.
Yeah, farm
Okay,
boy.
so there you go. What a
Yeah.
mix.
Oh, it's the greatest mix. You get to understand. That's why when I hear people talking about, how everyone's constantly talking shit in politics these days, and I just look at people and I go, "What? You don't know. You gotta walk in people's shoes to understand who people are."
People don't know,
Be
and young
quiet.
people don't know, and
Yeah.
until people go through hardship, they don't know shit.
Yeah.
But this country is great just because of this incredible melting pot of humans from all over the
Absolutely.
planet. That's what makes this country
And the
great.
story you just told me about your dad, I mean, it's a story that's so similar to art because, again, the allure of coming to Hollywood, the thought of that magic and getting that. I mean, it really it meant so much to me, and my stories are the same. It's like until you finally. I met my first attempt at marriage. I mean, I wasn't very good at marriage apparently,
That's okay.
but I met a wonderful French lady, and I met her while I was in Rome, and I mean. She's working on a Gerard Depardieu movie. I'm working with Robert De Niro and Jimmy, and I'm going, oh my God! And so next thing I know, I mean, and I'm a classic lover and a romance guy. Next thing I know, I dive into the Fontana Barberini, which is a very
You didn't do that.
I did. I went in.
You went into the fountain?
I went into the Fountain Barberini, and I pulled her in. And I proposed to her in the Fontana Barberini. It was like, I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, I had to go home and explain to my, whatever girlfriends, I now had to.
Was that the girlfriend you were hanging out at her place, kind of like the old
Oh,
days?
no.
Different era.
Oh, no.
Well, you talked about your early days.
No,
3
we had
weeks
fun.
at the.
Oh, yeah, but
So you actually had to go back, tell your girlfriend it's over, because you jumped into a fountain and proposed to a French actress.
didn't really have a girlfriend. And I wasn't a liar about it. I wasn't like some sneak. I had multiple girlfriends and girls or whatever. And I had to go home and explain, that and it was funny. It was some took it, some didn't. But I just suddenly
some took it, some didn't.
Yeah, well, some got mad.
Bastardo.
I didn't do anything.
So okay, wait a minute.
No,
so
it was
did
more
you
like
marry?
asshole. What'd you do?
Dickhead. What about the French? You married her.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But she made the mistake. It was funny. and she was a great, great human being. I loved her. And she made the mistake of coming over. She landed at the airport, and they said, "What are you doing here?" And she's, "Oh, I'm here to meet my fiancé."
Right.
And she's all like, and it was like stamped, send her back. And they put her back on the plane.
Why?
And because she said she was here to, here we are with our borders wide open. But, the French girl says, and they shipped her back home. And
I don't understand that at all.
They wouldn't let her across because she said that, the marriage and they declined based on that.
Whatever.
alone.
That's bizarre.
Right. So
she
you never
could come in as a
you never
tourist.
give that information away.
I guess
if she had
not.
just said that,
I'm just a tourist.
It
yeah.
wouldn't have. But that was so. I had to move. I moved back to Paris. So
you lived in Paris?
I spent 6 months living
I
in
didn't know
Paris,
that. Oh,
so
my
that we
God.
could. And I got married in Paris to her.
So far, very romantic.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, nobody knows. Don't tell anyone, Charles.
Okay.
Well, it was great. We came back, and honestly, she hated L.A.
Right.
She was funny. She was, "Oh, I hate everyone here. All they care about is their pectorals," And I'm like,
Did you
yeah.
make fun sometimes and speak like her like that?
Oh, well, whatever.
You must have.
She had names for me. I had names for her. But they were pleasant ones, But it
That's
was bad
hilarious.
once you got down to, Frog or something like that. You were in trouble. But she hated it. And honestly, one day we just, I looked at her and I said, "I know you hate being here. I don't want
Oh, because then you moved back to L.A.
I don't want you to
Right.
feel." And it was a couple years, 3 years later.
Okay.
And I said, "I understand if you don't." And so I took her to the airport, and it was crazy. I'm saying goodbye. I'm crying. It was this ridiculous moment. And then I turned around as she was getting on the plane, and some fan just goes, "I know you,
Oh,
dude." And I'm like bawling, and I turned and I ran.
As you should.
I didn't even talk. I just ran away.
Was this many years ago? Or
That was about 1984.
Dude, that's many years ago.
I try not to think of it that way.
I'm exactly the same, but that's 40 fucking years ago.
I know.
Think of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, longevity means you don't think about things
I
like
know,
that.
I know.
It's
I'm
like-
in the same boat, but
Yeah.
and that's it. Have you been married since, or
Yeah, I've had marriages and I have children and it's
kids too?
Yeah, I have kids and daughters, and now I have a young boy. And my son's 11.
Okay.
And he's he's a dream come true. He's just an excellent boy, and
that's
I have daughters, and and it's not Ozzie and Harry. It's imperfect because of some relationships I'd had, and and why go into it?
No
but it's it's a gift. I have
It is.
It's
It
all a
is.
gift, and
11-year-old boy.
he's something too.
That's
and
amazing.
He's a tiger.
You're
and,
very prolific, dude. I mean, that's that's
well, as Dad said, never quit.
right.
Stay tuned. There's more Freak Show after this quick break.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you read the new issue of Delirium? Well, you should. Seriously. Don't mess about. Serious. Have you read the new issue of Delirium?
And now back to the Freak Show.
So I'm just thinking, since people are so interested in all these stories, and a lot of the people watching this are filmmakers or want to be filmmakers, they're artists, they're composers, because that's what they are. And I always ask, is there anything you want to let people know about how to break into the arts? I mean,
Well, it's funny you said break in. It's almost like that. It's like breaking and entering.
is.
People don't realize. I mean, even I had done close to 40 plays when I got to LA. Nobody gave a damn. I mean, I was throwing those guys, out of the Troubadour. I'm working for $3.50 an hour. I'm 25 years old.
Unbelievable.
I'm like, God, please tell me you have a better plan for me than this. It's
Yeah, but you dove into those pits too, and
I
tangled with
didn't
those
care.
girls.
Well, I
and-
did a lot of other crazy things that people don't really know about.
Well, give us one more.
I discovered that I could make money you know, better money by doing certain things. So what I did was, say no.
Come on, statute of limitations. Not even.
I had no crimes actually, but I had to that rooming house I told you about. I was asked to do every crime known to man. I had to lock my door.
Right.
But people don't know, but I delivered. I got a job for a company called Cuckoo Gram, and I delivered singing telegrams as a gorilla, and I could juggle. And
you sang the songs?
Oh yeah, I'd sing through that.
Dressed as a gorilla?
Oh yeah. Eventually, that's how I got my SAG card. I delivered a singing telegram to Gary Owens on the radio.
Okay.
And you know, I didn't think anything of it, and suddenly they're using it as a commercial. Gotcha. So I had the 6-month after to SAG thing, and that's how I eventually got my card, was through that. But I'd be at the Troubadour bartending, and I'm wearing my gorilla outfit. And then suddenly I got to leave.
Dude.
I put the head on, I run out the door, get in my car, I drive off to wherever I had to go, I deliver my singing, and we had funny singing telegrams too.
Sing one, come on. Anyone, come on. Come on,
well,
bring it back, bring it back.
How about the Hanukkah song?
Go for it.
I drove here from Santa Monica to wish you a happy Hanukkah. It's a custom we like best of all. While you're sitting on your tush, right beside your Hanukkah bush, have yourself. See, how do you remember these songs? But it was,
Hanukkah bush.
I mean, it was great. And then
that's back when people did have a bush on top, you know.
Yeah.
Women, right?
Right.
Remember that?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, but it was fun.
That's so cool.
I hated the birthday song. I've always hated the birthday song. I mean, even when I was a kid, I cried. I hated the song so badly.
Happy birthday.
I hate it with the passion. It's like even great singers sing it badly.
Right.
So I invented my own birthday song too, you know, which, oh yes, I'm bringing you a birthday wish. So I would do things like that, and I get paid very well. I got paid probably $50, $75 for a few-minute job.
Wow.
So
cool.
that I learned, but then I learned other stuff. Like I learned that we started doing practical jokes.
Okay, that's
and
good.
So I had a girl, and we would go to a party, and I'd get paid, say $500. I'd pay her, you know, like whatever, like $200 or something, and I'd keep the rest. And we would go to the party, and the idea was we'd start getting into a fight. You know, she would just, you know, publicly in front of everyone, and then we'd split. And then we'd start fighting again in a different part of the party. And then we loved it, especially when there was a pool involved. And so then the grand finale, we'd get into the big fight. And they didn't know it was real or not. And she'd slap me, and I'd fly into the pool, you know. And that was, you know, that was our job. And, it was funny as hell.
So that job, because I haven't exactly done things similar, but I've done a lot of stuff also on stage, doing my crazy tour that are sort of real, but not that real. And you bring shills in, and, you know, things happen, which also has to do with people taking their tops off. That's another episode. But this was not known by the people at the pool party. What was the entertainment?
At the end, they knew. At the end.
Otherwise, it's just some weirdo.
Yeah, well, that's what we wanted it to be up until the moment of truth, and people would get uncomfortable. But we did some, and then we did other ones where we would prank people long before it was famous.
Right.
And my favorite one ever, and we got paid really well for this one. The guy paid us, I mean, in those days, $500 was everything to me.
Like a couple grand.
That was 2 weeks of throwing people out of the Troubadour, you know what I mean? It was, and so we did, oh my God, my friend approached me. He had a very British accent. His name was Clement St. George, and a great, funny guy. And he goes, William, he says, they want us to go to go visit a lawyer. I go, what? What's going on? And he goes, the idea is we go in and we act like we're there to see the lawyer, you know, for a potential case, and we screw with him. So I mean,
really?
Oh yeah. So
this was the practical joke set up by a client of the lawyers who wanted to fuck around.
Another lawyer who was setting up his buddy.
Let me hear this story.
So, this one was, you know, I mean, no offense to anyone, because I always try to be true to my characters. So we essentially created La Cage aux Folles, and Clement was, now, darling, please control yourself. And I was just, and I'm like the weeping, you know, it was hysterical. And he's like, can you tell us what happened? I go,
but you walked in there as a couple.
Yeah.
And you're like weeping fruity man.
Oh, yeah, I'm weeping.
Just making sure we get
I'm
this.
weeping that guy, and I was just, and I start telling the story of what happened, and and how they abused us, and all, and I'm just going on and on. I don't even want to do it. I mean, it was funny.
That's okay. Wait, so how did
I don't want to be ostracized by humanity. It was just for fun.
People watching this get it.
I don't. Well, I'm not ashamed. I was acting.
Plus, it was a gig.
I was
Plus,
acting.
you're screwing around with a lawyer.
I made $500, and let me tell you, we nailed this guy to the wall. He had no idea. At first, he wasn't kind. I mean, lawyer kind. And he
lawyer kind.
He opened the door, and he was just and I had a little tissue, and I was like weeping.
Oh, God.
And please sit down. And he was just and oh, you're all right, darling, Clement. And it was funny shit. And then,
great.
and then he put his hands on me, and I'm like going on, and oh my God.
So did he get it at the end?
Well, that's the funny part is now as we went along, he was very understanding, and he even pushed like the Kleenex over to me, and he was doing everything. But then I slowly got louder and more dramatic.
Right.
Like I would suddenly stand up, and then so now I'm getting loud, and I saw the look in his eye, like he just goes, "Oh my God, no!"
Oh my God.
And so I keep getting loud, and he goes, "Listen, please, you really have to keep it down." And I'm like, "Okay," and I went back down with it, and Clement's like, "Oh, please, darling, try to calm you." And
it's the best.
And I'm just so then I get worked up again,
Right.
and get even louder, and then finally he goes, "I have to insist." He goes, and he grabbed the phone. "You have to stop, being so loud, or I'm going to have to call security." And I turned on him, and I go, and I accused him of being prejudiced as well. And I went and attacked him over the table. I started towards him.
What?
And I just went, you bastard, and I'm attacking him. And Clement's like, "Darling, please hold back." and it was just so funny. And
Wow.
And finally the guy's scared to death, and he could get out right now, please get out. And he's like, and so we Clement takes, "Darling, please, we have to go. We're going to be arrested."
I love that character.
Oh, he's
too.
awesome. He was great. So now they're dragging us out, and finally I go out the door, and I have the guy must have been like, "Oh my God, thank God." And then I open the door and I go, "By the way, that's compliments of," and I let him know, and he just fucking.
That is such a great story.
But I mean, I did others like that, but that was probably the best one of all.
Wow. I'm still seeing it in my mind. But I don't think you could do that today.
Well, somebody once said to me, because I used the gorilla outfit.
That's the gorilla.
So I'm delivering my, and I've done all that now. But now I'm going, nobody wants to see me. I can't get an interview for a movie.
Right.
I'm unknown, and, and I just couldn't. And it was hard. So I began to use... it was pre-even SAG card for me, and so I began to use the gorilla outfit. So I put it on, and so I used, it was easy. It was easy. I call up the studio, and I go, "I have a singing telegram for, this casting director or this director,"
wow.
and I go, and I would get the parking pass. I'd get everything. I'd set it all up, and I'd come in. And so the first one I did.
This is an unbelievable story. This is great.
The first one I did, it's all set up. "Oh, she's inside now. Let's,
Right.
So I come in the door, and I start singing, and I'm juggling, and I'm doing my routine. And the telegram was going so well that I almost felt embarrassed. So now I'm done.
Right.
And normally I'd exit with a bow.
Right.
And now I'm really nervous, and I almost left without even doing what I came to do.
Which
and
was?
At that point, I pulled my head off.
My head off. Yeah.
I pulled my gorilla head off, and inside... I had a soaking wet photo and resume, and I held it in my hand, and I just said, "I understand that this is completely unorthodox, and I really don't mean any harm to you." I said, "I'm a theatrically trained real actor." I said, "and I just didn't know any other way to come in the door, so I did this." And I was like that. That's the way I acted. And she looked at me, and she just goes, "Sit down."
Oh, wow. That's great.
And I sat down, and she looked at me, and she said, "I have done this for 40 years. She said, "I have never seen anything like what you just did."
That is so
She
awesome.
said, "I'm getting you an audition," and I got the opportunity. I got to meet Jim Bridges. They were doing Urban Cowboy at the time.
Oh, man.
And it worked. But then I tried it again, and I go, now I'm delivering it to Jim Bridges because months go by and I haven't heard anything.
What if I'm back?
You know?
The gorilla's back.
Well, at that time, he had he had done China Syndrome, and the opening of China Syndrome is live wires delivering a singing telegram.
Okay.
So I wrote a song, and it was congratulations on your new movie. And I came in the door, and I do the whole song and everything, and I finished the song like on my knee, and Jim goes, "Is that you, Bill?"
Oh, no way.
So I sit down, I had this great meeting with him, and then the lady who was his assistant got pissed off that I got by her, because I was able to use the system to get around her.
Right.
And I was then accused of various forms of stalking and weird stuff.
What?
I had to, it didn't get too
That was
serious.
back some time ago. Today, you could not do any of this stuff.
That's what somebody said, and I told him, I said, let me tell you right now. I said, if I wanted to get in to see you, there's no force on earth that would stop me. I would have to reinvent how I do it.
That's your force of character, but and you're giving an amazing answer to people who want to know, how do I break in? This started with, how do you break in? I mean,
there were no rules.
No. And in a way, I guess, to some degree, there are still no rules, but the world has gone,
I was handcuffed and taken off the lot, too, for stuff.
way.
I mean, I was definitely, here I'd done movies, and now I'd done some movies, but I really wanted to be in the natural. And so bad, and I wanted to, play the kind of the Babe Ruth-ish character, the whammer, and so I had hand buzzer, I had all this stuff, I had my outfit, but they wouldn't give me an audition, they wouldn't. So I showed up, and I walked in to the audition fully dressed, like
uninvited.
Oh yeah, but I didn't tell. I walked up and I said William Forsythe, and she looked on the list and she goes, I don't have, and I go, I don't know what to say about that. And she just looks at me, and she knew that I had done some work, so she just writes me in,
Oh, wow.
And I'm now going to have my chance, and I'm sitting back down, and then, and I'm looking over there, and it was great because Richard Farnsworth, the great Richard Farnsworth, was sitting there, just quietly sitting there, and suddenly. Michelle Pfeiffer was there, and I was in acting class with Michelle.
Wow!
And what a wonderful person. And I hugged Michelle, and I'm like, hi, Michelle, And so the girls saw that, and that's how I got, somehow it all connected that I was going to get my shot.
Right.
So Michelle goes in. I'm sitting there, and I walk up to the girl right in front of Mr. Farnsworth, and I said to her, listen, I'm just gonna confess this to you. I said, because I don't want you to get in trouble, with what, you letting me in the door there. I said, but I really don't have an appointment today. Right. And I was just wondering if I could, wait to the end of the day and have a chance. She picked up the phone and started calling security on me. And and I'm just standing there, and right at that moment, Michelle comes out. And I'm like, I'm hugging on Michelle again, and we have this, see you soon moment. And I see Michelle leaving, and I see the security coming at that. And Mr. Farnsworth, God rest his beautiful soul, he saw it all happening, and he just couldn't. He just bowed his head like he didn't want to watch. And the guys came in and dragged me out of there.
That is so incredibly fucked up. That's hard to even believe. You're already a known actor. You're friends with.
Oh, a little known.
Well, but your friends, Michelle, the hugging, the thing, what a coos.
But just how it all
What happened
timed.
to that chick? Hopefully she's like the one who
irony.
calls
I won't say any names. She was an assistant casting director. I won't say any names. So now I do a few years later, I do Patty Hearst with Paul Schrader.
Oh, right.
And I'm doing the movie, and she was involved in the movie. She was a casting person, and she didn't remember anything. And she was a very attractive woman. And I walked up to her and I said, maybe you want to get a drink or something to eat sometime, whatever. And I asked her out, and she said yes. And
what?
Yeah. So
you're a wild man. Okay.
but
fucking, whoa. Okay. So did she recognize you?
No. So at the dinner, or whatever the moment, I told her, I said, we've met before, and she's, oh really? And I just said, yeah. I said, you had me taken away. And I told her the story, and she just turned pale right in front of me, and I just looked at her and I said, the moral of the story is, I said, when somebody wants it that bad that they're willing to, be inventive and creative to take a shot at getting it. I said, maybe you could consider, being a little less harsh on them. And then I paid and I left.
Oh, you didn't make out or anything?
No, I was there to deliver a message, Tony.
That is.
It was, but I mean, I thought, she was nice. I mean, just doing her job. And, I could have not said anything, too, at that first audition, and I would have gotten in the door, and, but.
But isn't life crazy? And I think I know similar situations, and I think you actually did the right thing by saying that. First, you wouldn't have this fucking crazy story to tell right now. I mean, come on. And the fact that you invited her out to dinner or drinks, and then you laid on the
and she was pretty, and she was wonderful.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess ultimately people watching this just are going to take away, people want to break in. I keep using that word because it's hard. It's harder than ever right now to get into whatever the field is, And
but the real story, I mean, that's my way because I just was willing to do things.
Right.
But the reality is, to me, is to and I don't think it's a solution I've necessarily, but is to really do the work, to do the craft, to work really hard, to surround yourself with like-minded people,
Absolutely.
to be with people who are passionate and care, not with the other ones who are, nowadays everybody's like, everybody's got the selfie face down, but they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
And it's kind, to find yourself, but even with that, it's still like climbing Mount Everest.
It is, and it takes a certain amount of luck and endless perseverance.
Yeah, and nobody wants you. I mean, no agent, there's no person that is interested in you unless you're already there.
Right.
So that's what I created, my way of finding the bridge, and and eventually I got the opportunity. My I had gone in and done an audition with this agent. And great guy, and he dealt with a lot of clients that were the Slim Pickens and Chuck Connors, and he had those kind of clients, but they were at that later point in their career.
Right.
And he saw me do a scene. Actually, the other guy that I did the scene with, it was his audition. He invited me to go along.
I see.
And I wrote one of the scenes. I wrote a scene based on my grandpa. He was a farmer in Missouri, and the other one we did was Hatful of Rain. And it was good, but we left, and I didn't think anything of it. And then I got the call from the agent, unfortunately not my friend, and he became so angry with me that Well, I went in, and this guy said to me, he said, "You're the real deal." He goes, "I know you don't have a SAG card." He said, "I'm gonna sign you with the agency, and once you're able to get that card, you're gonna work." And he, so I did, and it took whatever, my gorilla, my whatever, and I finally got in, and I was able to get the movie with Dennis. I got it strictly on his word.
Your first
He
feature.
said, this young man, he goes, is a really great eye. He said, I put my reputation on the line with you. Don't fuck up.
Do you still have pictures of you in the gorilla suit?
No.
Not one.
Not a gorilla. No, I don't
survived.
I don't have any. Nobody took pictures back then.
No,
my pictures are all here. They died with me.
Yeah, me too,
sadly,
until recently, obviously.
Yeah, I feel the same way. But no, it's legendary. Well, I got called in. When the girl got mad, and I was suddenly accused of everything. At that time, I moved over to Livewires, the actual company that had been
that did that, right?
And so she called Livewires, and so now I got the call, come in right now, and
oh my! This is the same chick you took out for a drink?
No,
sorry.
This was back in. When I delivered the telegram to Jim Bridges.
Okay.
That girl.
Got it.
She called up and she was
upset about your.
Well, she got mad and she ratted me out.
Yeah.
And so I got the call from Livewires.
And they were
employer,
like,
come in right now and bring your gorilla suit. And I was like, all right, jig's up.
Jig is up.
So I brought my suit in and I go walking in, and then it was a big office.
Oh, was it their suit possibly?
Yeah.
It was their suit.
Yeah.
So you don't have it in a closet anymore, right?
Oh no, I had to turn it in. So they're all sitting around.
That's great.
At the and back then it was a big office, you
Right.
know, like, and people were at their desk and all these,
Right.
and they all turned and looked at me, and you know, and now I had the walk of shame.
The walk of shame with the gorilla suit.
Yeah, in my arm, and I had to walk up to the woman, and she was good. I mean, she's standing there looking out the window when I come in, all dramatic, like, you know, like she's
Right.
Oliver Stone or something.
Right.
And she's looking out the window, and she turns to me dramatically, and we're gonna have this, you know, and she says to me, "Young man," and I just went to, "I'm going to cut you off right here." I said, "I apologize." I said, "I know what I did is probably wrong for you guys." I said, "Here's your gorilla outfit." I said, "I'm only going to tell you right now, you're making the right choice because I'll only do it again." I said, "So thank you very much," you know, and I handed my suit in, and she's just looking at me exasperated.
Well, because you left her nothing.
Yeah.
You just
and
left her
so now I left, and it was funny. So all the girls and people who were in the office are looking at me, and as I'm leaving, and I see these little smiles, and finally one of them at the end, she looks at me and she goes,
You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to, that's just me. Something fell off. But this has been like the fastest hour ever. Can I call you just William? Because you are William Forsythe.
You can call me Will, Bill, William.
No,
All good.
you're William. You've done.
bless you,
This is,
brother.
you know, I love watching you so much over the years. I literally get emotional because we grew up together. I'm sure we're similar age. And one of the great things about your performances, they're always uniquely different. You bring something different to every role. I mean, it's hard to even, sometimes I go, is that William Forsythe? Oh, fuck, that's him.
I love that. To me,
But that is another unique talent that you have.
the love of creating a different person each time. I make jokes. I don't really give a shit
Right.
what people call me. When people call me a character actor or
Right.
something, I
Right.
go, it's not the C word, it's the V word.
Right.
I said, because I can do what they can do.
Right.
They can't do what I can do.
That's a good
And
one.
it's like, and so I get, I always let them have it, because like that's the first thing they reach
I'm just
for.
bummed there's not a gorilla.
I'm
photo.
ready. I'm ready. If I had to
No.
go to the studio
You
right
could
now,
do it again.
well, my agent said you could never do that now, and I said I guarantee you right now.
Oh.
If I had to deliver it,
Well, because you're crafted to do that. You're unique in being able to.
I'll find the way in.
Well, look, in my bizarre career, I've also done things that most people wouldn't think of doing, or you can't do that. And that's how I, in a way, broke in and accomplished things. So it takes that talent. I just want
it's harder now because everybody thinks they're the great and powerful fucking Oz.
It's
They're
all
all sitting
that.
behind a curtain.
Yeah.
They don't want to meet you.
That's true.
And and I'm like, you're missing. And you know what? The films are showing it.
Yeah.
It's
Don't get
showing
me
it.
started because our hour's gone.
All right.
Dude. Thank
Next
you
time,
again.
another hour
Oh, no,
someday.
easy. Thank you. Thank
God
you
bless,
so much.
buddy. It's a pleasure, Charles.
It's ridiculously cool. I'm like, wait a minute.